desperate for a win for the Curve. He's rooting hard for the Curve. He's pretty well fed up. No, he's not. He's Jon Mozes of the Altoona Curve. He's with us this morning and looking for good things to happen with the Altoona Curve. John, a 12-game losing streak to start the season obviously isn't the way you wanted it to go, but that's the way that it started for Altoona, and I know that you would love to get win number 1 tonight.
I'm ready for it. Yeah, it's been a tough run here, but the good news, partner, is that 9 of the 12 losses are by 3 runs or less. Mm-hmm. So the Curve are in a lot of these close games, just haven't been able to pull one out yet.
Yeah. Well, we're hoping that'll happen tonight. Our visit with Jon Mozes, presented by Marcus & Mack, voted the best law firm and best personal injury lawyer 4 years in a row in the Best of Indiana County contest. Visit them online at marcusandmack.com. Last night just couldn't get any offense, huh?
Yeah, not really. I mean, Portland's starting pitcher was really good. Eduardo Rivera struck out 9 over 5 2/3. Just was really dialed in and commanded his fastball very well. And look, you're going to have nights like that over the course of 138 games where the other guys just have it. And look, you got to match what they're doing, right? Curve didn't get a great start on the other side. And, when you're in a 7-0 hole after 4 innings, it can be a little discouraging. But the good news is right back at it tonight.
Yeah, well, they've gotten some really good starting pitching, and they've gotten some really good relief pitching. Putting it all together, though, is what they need to do. So let's talk a little pitching with the Altoona Curve this season. And what you've seen, obviously, not everything has gone the way that you would want it to go, but who are some of the standouts that you've seen? I know you've got some veteran guys back for a second or even third season with the Curve. Po-Yu Chen's going tonight, as a matter of fact. Yeah,
that's right. Christian Curtis, I think, is a guy that, has a chance to pitch in the major leagues for a while. He's gotten off to a really nice start. Pitched great on opening day, 5 innings, 1 run, 9 strikeouts. Got knocked around a little bit in Richmond. I thought threw a pretty good start on Tuesday night, even though he took the loss, 6 innings, 3 runs. He's got the tools to get there. Connor Whitgriff got beat up a little bit last night, and that's going to happen, right? I mean, he's pitching against the most seasoned hitters he's ever faced in his life, and it's going to take time for some of the younger guys at the level with ability to understand the right way to get guys out when you get to AA and eventually to AAA in the big leagues.
Yeah.
So you're sort of relying on some of those veteran guys, like you mentioned, like Jaden Woods, who I thought threw the ball really well last night, Cy Nielsen, Emmanuel Chapman, Po-Yu Chen, guys who have had success at this level. I think it'll take a little bit of time for some of those younger guys to sort of learn those lessons for themselves.
Yeah, you think about it, these guys have been winners all throughout their minor league careers, and you anticipate that is going to continue as they get to the Curve. They're playing basically against the same guys that they have played with coming up through other teams' systems, and so they have to have that kind of confidence.
Yeah, it is a little strange, right? This group of position players, guys like Callan Moss and Kaner Delgado and Javier Rivas, guys who were with Greensboro last year, they won a lot, right? They had one of the 4 or 5 best records among professional baseball teams in the minors last year. They won 90 games. And so it's a little strange, and I'm sure it's a little bit of a dose of reality to be in this stretch, but the culture that you develop of winning at a lower level, that does carry over, right? Because it comes down to how you carry yourself each day, how you prepare yourself for each game, in addition to what your abilities can do for the team.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to talk about the guys that they're throwing to, the catching core for the Altoona Curve. Omar Alfonso is a guy I was impressed when I saw them a couple of weeks ago. With how much bigger he seems now than he was before. And maybe I just didn't pay as much attention, but he seems like he's a much bigger guy now than he was. And Derek Berg has always been a guy who has intrigued me as a catching prospect for the Pirates, and we're waiting to see him bust out too. But they've got some guys that have caught some ball games, and that can only help a pitching staff.
That's right. I mean, you've got three guys that have sort of been through it. I think you're right about Omar Alfonso sort of looking more impressive to start the year. He's shown off some pretty incredible power. Last week in Richmond had, extra base hits going to the opposite field, which I think is a good sign for his ability to hit for power and hit for contact overall. You're right about Derek Berg too. He can hit. He can really hit, man.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of home runs already. Sean Ross is another guy with major league caliber power. Andy Fox has sort of had a little bit of a dance to get all three guys in there on some days. You got to use the guys who are playing their best, and three of the Curve's best hitters are the three catchers.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. So Jack Brannigan is back in a Curve uniform. I wouldn't anticipate that Jack will be there long because the Pirates have great hopes for him making it to Indy this season and putting up some quality stuff there. But as long as he's there, he's a source for the Curve to draw on with his veteran leadership, with the fact that he can really swing the bat. He's a great fielder. And he's just an impressive guy. Pirates put him on the 40-man roster over the winter.
That's right. Jack is a welcome addition to Altoona's lineup, just to lengthen that lineup of veterans a little bit. Half a season of Double-A experience already. Him and Deuce Gorson playing together up the middle, I think, is a really strong combination. Jack is just so happy to be healthy again.
Yeah.
Had the shoulder injury last year, and he told us when he arrived in Altoona that, he'd only been cleared for maybe a couple of weeks to play catch and do normal baseball activities before Major League Spring Training. So, when he got hurt in the Pirates' second or third spring training game this year, it was sort of like that stop and start. Just so frustrating, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, for him to get back out there and just play every day, I think is hugely valuable, not only to, his individual development. Obviously, the Pirates think highly of him, as you mentioned. But, for the Curve's success as well, I think, your chances of winning ball games are a lot higher when Jack Brannigan's playing shortstop.
Yeah. Now refresh me. Was the shoulder injury right or left for him?
I believe it was his left shoulder. And he has had an injury to his right shoulder before. So, Unfortunately, there's a little bit of history there.
Yeah, the thing about him is he was such a fantastic, really, really good college pitcher who could throw the baseball 100 miles an hour. You wonder how shoulder injuries are going to affect the guy when he moves to a position player. Does he get closer to first base? Do they move him over eventually to second if the arm isn't what it once was? But you'd love to see a guy with that big of an arm and that sure of a glove do some special things on the left side of the infield.
Yeah, look, that's something to monitor here. As Jack gets some games under his belt here, watching him go about his business in the early afternoons and seeing the throws that he's been asked to make in games, the three he's played to this point for Altoona, the arm strength looks about the same, which I think is a good sign. I think you're right that, there might be some concern there down the road, but I think for now it's sort of let's wait and see on that one.
Yeah, well, he's got a lot to weed through in order to make it to this Pirates team. They seem to be stacked with young talent in the infield, but if you can play, and the teams will recognize that, and you'll make your way through the system. And Jack Brannigan can play. I think we all know that.
No doubt.
All right, John. So this weekend, of course, you've got a big weekend of Curve baseball, and then next week you hit the road. Tell me about this weekend. What are some of the things fans can look forward to?
All right, so big weekend. Tonight is our golf night. We've got a cool giveaway. It's a magnetic divot tool presented by New Pig for the first 1,000 fans tonight. This is a really cool program. We work with Sheets Fellows to develop a promotional night each year, and this was kind of their baby. This was partly their idea to have a golf night where all of our games will be themed around golf and that kind of thing. There's a T-shirt giveaway that you can purchase as part of your ticket. We've got a specialty hat. We'll have some stuff like that up in the store this weekend. And then on Saturday is a Garrett Cole Cy Young bobblehead giveaway.
Wow.
It's part 2 of our Cy Young pair. We did the Paul Skeens bobblehead a couple weeks ago, second game of the year at home. And these 2 bobbleheads fit together as a set, making them a true collector's item. So 4:00 game Saturday against the Portland Sea Dogs. I think we're going to have great weather again. I was just looking at the weather before we got on here. It's going to be in the 70s tonight, all kinds of sunshine. So a couple of really nice days of Curve baseball coming up here.
Cool stuff with the Altoona Curve. Jon, thanks so much for the visit today. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. Talk to you soon.
Jon Mozes and the Altoona Curve. It is the voice of Indiana County, WCCS, 101.1 FM, AM 1160, WCCSradio.com.